Do not adjust your computer screens. Yes, it is a Monday and not a Tuesday, and yes, I am here doing a video, but I am not doing a podcast. I am doing something that I've wanted to do ever since I started my podcast. I am going to do an indie Dyer spotlight. I'm really excited about this. I really think that indie dyers really need to they need their praises sung. I mean, obviously good indie dyers, although I don't really know that I can think of a bad indie dyer, honestly. I mean, I haven't come across one. I'm sure there's some out there, but I haven't come across them yet. Anyway, so before we get started on the spotlight, I do want to say that everything is going really well with Ron. I will give a proper update in my podcast tomorrow, but he's doing well and he's home and things are looking up. So I'll just leave that there, and then tomorrow I'll get all into what happened since I talked to you guys last Tuesday. But let's get into the indie dyer spotlight. As I mentioned, this is something that I've really wanted to do for a while. I was trying to think about additional videos that I could do, you know, besides the podcast and besides the tutorial, and I thought, you know, one of the things that I really like about watching podcasts, besides seeing the cool projects that they're knitting up, is really learning about indie dyers that I hadn't heard of. With the internet, we do have access to dyers all over the world. It's no longer, you know, only a regional thing. But I still think that we only see the dyers that we're exposed to, and so there are dyers that don't get enough exposure. Really awesome dyers that should be talked about more, and they just haven't been talked about by the right people yet. And I'm not saying that I'm the right people, but there are dyers that I really, really love and I really enjoy knitting with, and so I thought, you know, maybe you guys might enjoy hearing about them. So I am going to try to do this maybe once a month, maybe once every other month. It kind of depends on how I get, you know, what kind of response I get from the dyers, how life goes with us. I do have today's spotlight, and I have one more dyer lined up, but I haven't really gone any further than that. And I do ask that you kind of bear with me as I kind of go through the growing pains process of this. I have this idea in my mind what I want to do with this kind of segment of my channel, but I'm not sure exactly how long it's going to take me to work out the kinks. So, basically what this is going to be is kind of just a description of the dyer and what kind of a knitter and a dyer that she is, or he is. And then I'm also going to talk about the things that I have made with their yarns, because I will only spotlight indie dyers that I have actually worked with. I can't sing the praises of a yarn I don't know anything about, right? And I will go over yarn that I have in my stash that I have of that particular dyer, and how I feel about the yarn and the base and whatnot. And yeah, that's basically what I have planned. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this. I hope it will come off as good as it is in my head. I know that it's already starting out to be a kind of a bungling mess, but hey, that's me. So the first dyer in my series of indie dyer spotlights is Laura, who dyes for A Million Stars. And I picked her first because, well, for one thing, she's kind of a personal friend on Ravelry. We have been in the same swap groups for years and years and years. We've swapped things back and forth over the years. I think we've even been like swap partners for one-on-one partner swaps. And so I have this relationship with her, and I kind of figured she would say yes when I asked her if she would mind me doing this. but also because I have knit a lot of her yarns over the years. As I've mentioned before, I have knit on, used to knit socks on commission, and a lot of the times, or several times, some of the socks that I got, or some of the yarn that I got was hers. So I was, not only have I knit her socks for myself, but I've also knit them for other people, and I've just really always been very pleased with both her yarn bases and her dye jobs. I primarily have knit her stripy socks, or stripy sock yarn, but she also does tonals, she does variegated, she does gradients, she does some beautiful gradients, and so I thought, you know what, this would be the perfect dyer to choose for my first Indie Dyer Spotlight. I have lots and lots of experience with her as a person, as a seller, and as a and her yarn. So what I basically did was I sent her just some questions and about, you know, her as a person and as a dyer, and I'm going to kind of just go over some of the answers that I got. I asked about how she got into knitting and dyeing, and actually her story kind of mirrors mine just a tiny bit, except for the fact that she learned to knit years and years and years before I did. She actually was taught to knit when she was about 8. I didn't learn until I was in my late 20s. But she, you know, she knit off and on through her childhood, but it wasn't until 2010 when she discovered Ravelry that she really got into knitting. And how many of us can say that same story? Yes, knitting was okay until I discovered Ravelry, and then all of a sudden it became a big portion of my knitting, or my life. And that's exactly how it was for me. Once I discovered Ravelry, that was it. I was sold. I was a knitter with a capital K. And then, so she really got into Ravelry, and she's very active on Ravelry. She is the Stars and Seas on Ravelry. If you maybe have seen her around, she has some really beautiful flowers as her avatar, or her ravatar, if you will. But she said that getting into dyeing, she would see these yarns that were listed as hand painted, and that really intrigued her, and she kind of got some very interesting ideas about how somebody would hand paint yarn, you know, taking a paintbrush to each strand of yarn. But she thought that was really interesting, and so she decided she wanted to take a try at it, and kind of, you know, picked up some supplies here and there and dyed her first yarn. She said her first ones were mostly like tonal semi-solids, and she just really fell in love with it and just kind of went from there. And now she's been dyeing for about 7 years, and it really shows. The time and effort that she's put in really shows, in my personal opinion. She offers a lot of products. There's been a lot of yarn lines that have gone through her shop, and she doesn't really have a whole lot of themes when it comes to her dyeing, but all of her yarn lines are kind of named after either characters or aspects of Greek mythology. She has, you know, the Athena yarn line, and Gemini, and Penelope, and Circe and Ajax, and so she kind of picks her yarn line names based on Greek mythology, which I think is pretty cool. And now that I'm reading the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan with my kids, I know a lot more of those Greek mythology names. She says the name of her shop, Miliion Stars, is also kind of inspired by the whole mythological idea, you know, the constellations and whatnot. And I've always really liked the name of her shop, Miliion Stars. It just seems like it's got so much potential. You know, it's the stars, right? And there's a million of them, and they're so bright. And yeah, I'm trying to wax poetic, and I'm not really a poetic person. So I'll go back to what she actually wrote. She says that in regards to her inspirations for her dyeing, it kind of varies. Sometimes she'll see some colors put together, and she'll think, oh, well, you know what, that actually goes really well together. Let me see if I can recreate that in a skein. sometimes she'll hear words, a funny phrase or something like that, that will kind of trigger a color combination in her mind. Like, I think there was one that was called I'm in a boy band or something like that. It's just, I've always really enjoyed some of the names that she gives to her colorways. And she said that she really enjoys kind of just the experience of dyeing something and seeing how it will change from what's in the dye pot to what's been rinsed and then it being dried. And then she even mentioned how it can look so different when it's just in a big loop, and then when it's skeined up, it changes so much, and she really enjoys that process. So so that's basically the interview, if you will, that I gave Laura. I asked her, basically, what got her into knitting and what got her into dyeing, what kind of yarn line, what kind of yarn lines she carries, and what inspires her in her dyeing. And that's basically what I'm going to ask most of the indie dyers that I interview because I just write it down and send it in an email, and then they send the response back in an email. But I kind of wanted to go over some of the stash that I have of Laura's currently, and then the plethora of socks and other things that I have made of hers, because there is quite a lot. I added it all up, and I've actually made 14 different projects with her yarn, which is probably the most that I've made of any one dyer, indie or otherwise. I just really, really like her yarn, apparently. So currently, I only have 4 skeins left of her yarn, which is kind of a sad thing because I used to have so much more, but I've been knitting it up, and that's kind of what happens. And you'll see these skeins knit up this year, because I do have plans to use them all up this year, and then I have an excuse to get some more, right? So as I said, most of mine are stripies. All of mine are stripies, let me just be honest. All of mine are stripies. So this is in her Cirque sock, which is a really nice base. It's fingering weight, 435 yards. This is an MCN, so it's 80-10-10 merino cashmere on nylon, and it's just this really, like, it's not really a pale yellow, but it's not a really neon yellow either, and it's striped with gray, which I just absolutely love. I think this is going to be my my April box of socks yarn. And I have knit 5 different projects out of this yarn line. This is one of my favorite MCNs. It's not super duper soft, like it's not, doesn't have a huge cashmere content. So it's not one of those ones where you touch it and it feels like, a baby rabbit bunny bottom or something like that. Don't go pet baby bunny bottoms. Just, you don't know where those have been. But what I like about it is that several MCNs that I have used for socks, they wear out really quickly because the cashmere doesn't. It kind of takes away some of the hardiness of the yarn. But I have found that these generally hold up pretty well. Then I have her Gemina line, which I've only actually knit one other time, but I do like it just as much. It's also fingering weight. It's an 80-20 merino blend. And this colorway is Electric Boogaloo, which I love a lot. It's this beautiful blue and this beautiful green striper. And these tend to have, like, thick 6 to 8 row stripes, which I kind of like quite a lot. If you're going to have a two color striper, I like them to be big, thick stripes. And next I have her Penelope line, which is also fingering weight. It's also an 80-20 merino blend, but this one only has 400 yards as opposed to the Gemini, which has 420 yards. And I didn't say the Cirque sock has 435 yards. This colorway is turning right around, and it is just the most beautiful teal and purple and gray striper. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to knit this one up. And I have made, I think, 3 projects with this one. And then the last one that I have in my stash was a gift, actually, from a friend in a partner swap. And she gave me 2 skeins in this colorway, and I swapped one. And I really regret that, because I would have loved to been able to make knee socks out of this. This colorway was dyed kind of especially for me. If you know me at all, you know that I have such an affinity for Alice in Wonderland. And this colorway is called We're All Mad Here. And it is just, it's red and teal and yellow, all the good bright colors, and I absolutely love it. This is the Cirque Twisted, which is also an MCN 80-10-10, but it's got more of a pebbly twist, a more high twist than the regular Cirque sock, and it has 400 yards. And I've knit that up twice, including my January box of socks in the colorway Dizzy, which I knit, and we all know that I absolutely love to death. And then the other yarn lines that I have that I've knit up in the past, but I no longer have, with me. I no longer have in my stash, but I wanted to kind of go over them. I made an amazingly awesome pair of elbow length fingerless gloves out of her Ajax in the colorway What I Wouldn't Do, which was blue and green and gray stripy. You should be seeing the picture right now. And that is also an 80-20 merino blend, 420 yards. And then I knit my mother a pair of socks, and I knit a friend a really lovely colorwork hat out of the same skein in her Athena yarn line, which is a light fingering, and it's a 75-25 a merino blend, and it is rather thin, but it was beautiful for color work. It was perfect in this hat. So there are several other yarn lines in her shop, and like I said, she also does tonals and gradients and semi-solids and variegated. She has lots of choices. She even actually, now that I come to think of it, she does dyed fiber every once in a while, and I don't spin, but I did get some of her fiber once, and I asked a friend to spin it for me, and I knit it into a really awesome sock head hat, a sock head-ish kind of hat. So yeah, if you're a spinner, you can even get some of her fiber dyed up. So anyway, she's got all this yarn in her shop, and I really highly suggest that you go and check out her shop. I will, of course, link it down below. It's on Etsy. But she has also been very generous to extend a coupon code for the people who are watching my videos. And that will be good until the end of March. And it is for 20% off. You just put in the code Christy20. Make sure that you spell that Christy right. There's no H, there's no Y, there's no E. And there's no K either. CRISTI 20. And as I said, that'll give you $20 off of your order, and now until the end of March, which is a great deal. But not only that, she also sent a skein to have as a giveaway. So as I mentioned, gradients are really popular in her shop, especially lately, and so she decided to send a gradient for this giveaway. I will open a thread in the group, in the podcast group, Relatively Crafty podcast group on Ravelry, podcast group on Ravelry. If you're not a member, I would suggest that you become one, so you can be eligible for this giveaway. But yeah, so she offered this really amazing yarn, and it is a gradient called Keeping Count. It's dyed in her Cirque Light yarn base, which is light fingering, 560 yards. It's an 80-10-10 MCN, so it's really sweet, really soft, really sweet. I guess it could be sweet too. And it is a superwash merino. So I know I haven't showed it to you yet, but I guess I wanted to have it be a little bit suspenseful. But here you go. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? She knows that I don't care for black, and so she, in the little note that she sent with the yarn, she apologized for sending a skein with the dreaded black in it, but I told her it was okay because this removes my temptation to keep the yarn for myself, which I honestly would never do. I mean, obviously a giveaway skein is a giveaway skein, but here it is. It starts with this beautiful, an aqua turquoisey blue, turning into like a nice ocean blue, and then into this black. It is gorgeous, guys, and it is very soft and squishy. It feels really nice, and it came, caked up like this. There is her card. You can see, hopefully. Hopefully I'm holding that still enough so you can see. And yeah, as I said, I will open up a thread. I'm not sure what the prompt will be. It will probably be something like, go to Laura's website and tell me what yarn colorway you like the most. I know that that's kind of a cop-out, but I kind of like the idea of it. So, plus I'm about making life easier for right now. So anyway, I will have this open until the end of March. When I will do an RNG, a random number generator draw, and the winner will get this lovely, very soft skein. I hadn't taken it out of the bag yet until now, and it's actually much softer than the Cirque sock that I was showing you earlier. So this is very lovely. This would make a gorgeous shawl. Very perfect for next to the skin. It's very soft. So yes, there you have it. That is my first Indie Dyer Spotlight. I hope that it went well. I hope that when I edit this, I won't look like just a complete babbling idiot. Not any more than normal, anyway. As I said, I do have my next Indie Dyer set up. I'm hoping to be able to do it in April, but I may end up doing it in May. It all kind of depends on schedules and how things work out for the both of us. If you are an Indie Dyer and you would like to be part of the Indie Dyer Spotlight, then contact me. I do need to, of course, have worked with your yarn a little bit, but if we plan it enough in advance, then I can always, get a skein and try it out and see how I like it, and then, we can do a spotlight. If you have Indie Dyers that you think I should spotlight or that you would like me to spotlight, let me know. If it's one that I can get my hands on their yarn and I can, talk them into doing a spotlight, then I would love to do that. I feel like Indie Dyers they need promotion. They're awesome people, and they are doing awesome things with yarn. And honestly, I kind of am in awe of people who dye really well, because I still see that as kind of magic. Like, they take, I don't know, powder, right? It starts out the dye starts out as powder, right? And they put it on yarn and they make it like abracadabra. There's gorgeousness. So they're kind of like sorcerers in my mind. So yeah, let me know down below what you think of this. If you like this to be a regular thing on my channel, if you have any pointers, things you would like me to add to this this segment. Yeah, just let me know. I'm open to ideas, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I will see you tomorrow for my regular podcast, and yeah, I have yarn to show you there too. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.